Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to the Justin Wenzel Podcast. On this show, we like to give people an opportunity to share their story, share their journey, and how they were able to go from being at the very bottom all the way up to where they are today, where they're at, even in the spot to tell their story and share the way that they're able to use that to help other people. So if you like what you're seeing, make sure you click that subscribe button, make sure you comment, share, like this stuff, engage with us to help us get this out there. Some of these stories people really need to hear because they can totally relate. And today, we have Fausto. What's up, bro?
What's up, buddy?
Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's the new studio.
Yeah, and it's amazing. All the rooms in here looks amazing. It's just incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. We got a little bit of work left, but I'm pretty stoked on where it came from. But let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So Fausto, the hope dealer.
Yeah.
Where does that name come from?
So that name actually came from one of my mentors had a shirt that said hope dealer. I had like 9 months sober. And I was like, dude, that's so cool. Like, what is that term? And, you know, from dope dealer to hope dealer. And so that's where I heard it. And then I embodied it because my mentor would say, you know, you are a hope dealer. You're spreading hope. You're positive. You love helping people. It just oozes out of you. And so over time, I was able to, you know, take that persona and really live it out because that's what everybody would call me. They'd be like, oh, you are a hope dealer. You are a hope dealer.
And you do live it out. I see it every single day that I talk to you, that, you know, I see you out there doing your thing. Obviously, you've turned that into a full-blown mission. But there's a lot of people out there that are gurus.
Life
coaches, healers, yeah.
Yeah, they got the secret sauce.
Yeah, right. What kind of makes you different than them?
Yeah, so what makes me different from them is, you know, I've been through a lot of things, from codependency, trauma, addiction, grief, cancer, narcissism, a lot of things I've been through. But I've also been able to walk through it the healthy way. So a lot of people might have gone through some things, but it doesn't mean they actually work through it the right way. And so not only have I been through it, I walked through it the healthy way. And then I also went to school to get educated in it. And then I've been able to practice working with people for the past 7 years, where my mentor would have thousands of people at his house a week, which you've been to. And so I've really got to practice what works, what doesn't work. And I've had a lot of amazing mentors in my life who have been doing this forever to help me. So that's what makes me have value to guide people. Because there's a lot of people out there nowadays where it's like you get a certificate and it makes you a life coach. And I'm like, it's like you're 18 years old. What are you going to life coach me on?
Right, yeah. It's hard to guide people when you've never been guided through anything, and especially if you haven't been in a situation where you're at the bottom. I'm a firm believer that only the broken can heal the broken. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe those who hurt the most heal the most. So I believe that you don't have to have gone through it to help somebody necessarily, but I truly believe in order to really impact someone's life deeply, I feel like you need to have gone through it.
You wouldn't learn how to ride a bike from somebody that was still on training wheels.
Yeah.
And I would, you know, it's funny because I've heard of numerous sobriety coaches that were never addicts or alcoholics. It's like, how can I take you serious? Because you don't, because unless, especially in terms of like alcoholism and codependency for that matter, you know, I think it's hard to understand what they're going through. Understand the dependency, the confidence that it gives you temporarily, like the search, the quest for feeling outside of how you normally feel. I don't think there's a certificate that can really help somebody communicate that level of authenticity.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's, especially with addiction, it's like, how can you want to be a sober coach, but you've never had that problem? You might understand it logically, but you don't understand it emotionally. The day-to-day, what we feel, what we think. You know, it's kind of like a hidden language. I could just look at you and we can talk and laugh because we get it, but you can't read what we're doing right there. Like that you can't read, you can't understand it. And so for me, yeah, I think it's confusing for somebody to want to try to help someone if they haven't been through it for that specific thing.
So it's funny, I was working with another one of my clients who's a coach. He's got a massive following. And he works in both fitness and sobriety, which I think they go hand in hand in some cases. And he had this team of young guys that were like, scale your school group and all of this stuff. And they sold themselves to him, and that's okay, and that's good that he took a leap and trust and all of that. But at the end of the day, they weren't booking calls, they weren't connecting with his audience, and he was getting followers by like the thousands, right? And I had told him a couple times, I was like, I just don't know if these kids are going to be able to communicate to somebody who's DMing you hurting. And what was it? Was it last night? Yeah, I think it was last night on our big call. I asked a few, because you've been on some of our calls, and we have tons of people in recovery in our program. And I asked, show of hands, how many of you guys have ever been to treatment? And half a dozen people were like, oh yeah. And I'd be like, okay. And I picked one person that I knew in particular that had been a number of times. I said, how many times have you been to treatment? He said, oh man, he's Southern. He's like 12 times or something like that, And I'm like, have you ever had anyone do intake on you that wasn't also in recovery? Find you a bed, get you to come out there or go wherever you're supposed to go. Have you ever had anybody do your intake that wasn't also in recovery? And he goes, damn man, I never thought about that. Nope. And then a few other people piped up. They're like, oh yeah, dude, the guy who did my intake was worse off than I was. And I was like, so in my head, it was like, I told him, and he doesn't care if I say his name, I said, JD, you gotta fire this team. They're just giving you isolated excuses and situations, but when you send me screenshots of the messages, they're dismissing the pain, they're dismissing the things that these people are coming forth with in the DMs.
Yeah.
And it takes one to know one.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, it's like, again, right, especially with people that struggle with addiction. You know us. If you haven't struggled with it, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
We're very difficult people to handle. Think about it. That's why addicts work in treatment. That's why helping an addict is the best medicine. It's just, for people like us, if you haven't gone through it, you're not going to be able to understand us or guide us. And we're looking for that validation, that understanding. You dismiss it. It's like, fuck you, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked. It's true. So you've been busy though.
Too busy.
So you got back and you kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about soft white underbelly, and that was pretty epic, dude. That's done really well.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? Because when I got back from my backpacking trip, my plan wasn't to hit the ground running. I took a step back for another 2 months being back because I wanted to move slowly. I didn't want to move fast.
Why?
Because when I move fast, at the end of that race, whether it's 5 years, 10 years from now, is a mental breakdown waiting.
Really?
And that's why I escaped and went to Asia for 6 months. So I realized that I'm going to crash and burn, and it sucks because it might take a long time. But I can't sustain that because my mental health can't handle that responsibility and that pressure.
What happens to you when you start to feel like you're going to crash?
So what happens to me is I feel like I put myself in this box that I have to be perfect because of the amount of responsibility that I have and people that rely on me and the character that I created as a positive, motivating, inspiring, how much time you got, how many things you've healed through, every place I go to, is that when I get to this place where it gets so much, I feel stuck. A part of me is like, I want to just fuck everything up, but if I do, it actually fucks up my career and it fucks up everything because my life and my brand is based on what I've done and who I am. And it's like, I hate this. I don't want to be that guy.
So do you still deal with self-sabotage?
I see it, but I'm aware of it, and I know how to kind of like do things to avoid getting to that place now. So that's why like now I move slow. So my mind is like, do X, Y, and Z, and I can be like, no. If I do that, I'm going to self-sabotage it.
Really?
Let's just focus on what's in front of me. Let's get this done. And if you still want to do X, Y, and Z in a month, try it out. But get this shit done.
Interesting.
That's how my brain works. And then there's some things people want to offer me. And I would say yes in a heartbeat. But now I'm aware of like, I know what this is going to lead to down the road. And I don't want that responsibility. So no thank you. So I'm able to see it now more clearly.
Have you struggled with saying no in the past?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not because I I think I struggle with it too because for me as an entrepreneur, I have this vision, this big vision. I want to be the voice of hope in the world. So my brain sees everything as an opportunity. Every conversation, every person, I can see, I have the leadership mind. I see 10 steps ahead what that can become. So of course I'm going to say yes to all these opportunities. But the problem is like, now I have too many opportunities. So I'm saying yes to so many things. And that's the problem. It's like, okay, how do I say no to some of this stuff when it sounds really good? And I want to do it, but I'm so booked.
So it's funny because I'm the exact opposite. If I have too much time and I'm moving too slow, then I feel like my self-sabotage traits start to come in. If my calendar looks like the fucking Technicolored calendar, then it's like I feel like I have like consistent purpose. And maybe it's a complex, maybe it's a superiority or inferiority or whatever you want to call it, but like I want to continue to move all the time. And then there'll be days where it's like I gas out and I'm like, I just want to do nothing. And we were talking about that at lunch today.
Right.
And what doing nothing actually does to me though, it sets off a different momentum. So then I have to then I feel like I'm playing catch up. Do you ever get that?
Oh yeah. That's why slowing down was so hard for me. Because I'm like you, when my Google Calendar is full and everything's color coded and it's all these amazing things happening, I feel good. A purpose driven life is good. I have 1 week where I maybe try not to do that and I spiral.
Really?
I spiral. I feel like I'm not doing enough, and so I would have to play catch up, I feel like, add more. And that was my kryptonite, was I need to slow down, but when I slow down, I feel like I'm not doing enough, so then I end up doing more. But then when I do more, I crash down the road years from now. So that's why the battle is, how do I slow down and not self-sabotage and that slowing down too?
Yeah. I had to learn how to say no to projects. I don't say no to many opportunities because I can usually fit everything in that I want to do. But I have this ego when it comes to projects because I feel like I can tackle anything.
Okay.
And a lot of times I'm like, yeah, that project I could totally make sense of and totally attack it. But then I'll, at the same time, like an hour later, I'll grab another project, right? And then I'm like, fuck, I got 2 projects I got to work on. And I still do them both. But I've learned, and I preach this, and then it's like I need to practice this in times where it's like, if you try to chase 2 rabbits, you lose them both. So I've been more dialed into...
Have you seen that happen to you, though? When you do that, you end up taking on too much, and it kind of gets away from you?
Yeah, both. Yeah. Okay. I never take on 2 things at the same exact time, or more than 2 things at the same exact time. I can usually juggle 2. And then also when you're doing business mentoring, and I get really involved with all the businesses that I help, but at the same time too, it's like they're not my businesses, so I don't feel like I'm working full time for them, which I shouldn't be, right? I'm not getting paid from them other than for consulting and stuff like that. But then there will be projects that'll come up where I'm doing consulting and I'm like, move the fuck aside. Let me just grab a hold of the helm. Let me just like do this for a second. Give me like 10 days to like really dive in on this and get it pieced together the right way. And that, I don't think I'm doing anybody any service by doing that, right. Even though I will definitely speed up that person's, at least their lead gen, at the very least, because I'm not going to take their sales calls and close their shit, right? Why would I do that? Yeah, if I can handle the setters, handle their stuff, and then step back away, that's perfectly fine. But there's tasks that are a little more stringent than others. You know, so I'm turning down projects. I don't turn down opportunity. Okay. I like to move fast. But, you know, lately this has been my biggest project.
The podcast?
The podcast, the studio. You know, we ran the podcast, on my old channel and stuff like that, and it was fun. But I was like, it was so amateur, and I wanted to do something more professional. Yeah. So here we are. Tell me about the system.
Which system?
Were you in trouble much?
No, actually. I've been arrested. I had to do court for 2 years, go to court every month and do all
Drug
this
court or?
It wasn't drug court because, so what ended up happening was I took 20 pills of ecstasy. And
At once?
At once. And my friends were robbing houses at the same time. So what ended up happening was they called the cops because of the robbing the houses, and we were all going to run. I overdosed, and they tried, Fausto, we got to go, but I was out of my mind, and they couldn't get a hold of me. And so then I ended up somehow climbing a fence and falling down a 20-foot ditch, and so they couldn't get me. So they left. Cops come, they see me on the floor, they grab me, they arrest me, obviously, because I'm convulsing, and they take me to the hospital. And I wake up in a hospital bed, handcuffed to the hospital bed because I guess I kept on trying to jerk off to the nurses because I was so eat out of my mind. So they had to handcuff me to the thing. And so what ended up happening was obviously they drug tested me. But for some reason, I came out clean.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? So they're like,
what were you taking?
I didn't take nothing. I don't know how. There's no way. I actually came out dirty. I had weed, ecstasy, I had everything in me. So they let me out, but they're like, I forgot what happened. For some reason, like, you got to go to court now for this. So I had to go to court, but I didn't have to get drug tested. I had to go to court for every month for 2 years and do community service. That's the only time that I got caught. Every single time I got lucky. I've been arrested. I was getting fucked over, and they're like, "You're so lucky. Somebody just got murdered. Get the fuck out the car." Like, I've had so many instances like that.
Wow.
Where I got lucky for whatever reason.
Yeah, I've had that happen just by getting pulled over. But I guess my question is rehabilitation versus incarceration, and what you see, because you probably deal with quite a few people that have been in and out and stuff like that. And what's the biggest holdup there? Like, what do you see the most of?
Yeah, I think the system works against helping people because the system is a business. And so in order for a business to stay afloat, we need you to stay sick. You know what I mean? And so a lot of the systems is built, which is, if you look at it from an insurance standpoint, an insurance company expects you to get your life right in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. So that system's already messed up. So that's why you have to lie, you have to change things to help somebody else. You have to play the game against them because they want you to be fixed in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Whether you're coming off of fentanyl, you're homeless, they don't care. And so insurance companies don't want to help people, right? So then we have to try to play the system because the system works against us. And then a lot of times when it comes to people being incarcerated and stuff like that, it's like what happens is they don't really help you when you leave. They kind of set you up for failure so you can come back and get locked up again. And so I think a lot of things are built to keep people institutionalized because it's a business instead of helping you. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think everybody.
Correct.
I think that there's a sliding scale as to what potential you have in being a contributing member of society. In other words, if you're a privileged guy, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like they're setting you up to rehabilitate and to get you back in the workforce because you're going to be a productive member of society, right? Yeah. You're better off rehabilitated, where some other people come from areas and they're in situations where it's like there's very likely that they're going to end up right back in this situation. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is that where they thrive? And if you could rewrite it, mm-hmm. Where would you start?
Yeah, so I want to say what you said because it's true, right? It's not everybody that's doing that. I think at the end of the day, you can't change the system. It is what it is. It's been like that forever. Life will always be like that. The reality is people need to step the fuck up. Mm-hmm. You want to change your life? Figure it out. It's information's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, because I was a dumbass. Mm-hmm. But I was also like, when I was in the prime of my dumbassery, I was a college student, right? Like, and then I had like a great job, a great career and things like that. But I did shit that I know people that did way more time than I did. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't charm. It wasn't like how good I was in the courtroom and how I spoke and things like that. It couldn't have been. because I stayed quiet and let my attorney do it for me. But again, it was like the shit that I did. I know people that were doing the same thing, if not way less than what I was doing, and they're caught up over and over and over again. And it seems like every time I ever got in trouble, and it was very often. At one point, it was like within a few times within a year that I was slap on the wrist, arrested 7 times, I think, for similar situations. One was terrible, one was bad, and then the rest of them were just dumbass things. But every single time it was like no community service except once. And it was like, let's set him up to not go back. And then of course, like I'd make it a couple years and then I'd do something dumb and end up right back in. But never once, other than the last time, because it was so close to the time before, never once did I have one thing, like I never violated probation except my last time. And that was a complete, very isolated situation to where it was like, I did it to myself because I wasn't mentally, like, I wasn't in a good place. But every single time it seems like it's been like the system was helping me to not end up going back. Like it was like, here's resources, here's what we want you to do. I was introduced to AA when I had a court card, things like that. But I know other people that wasn't the case. And is it where you're from? Is it what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complicated thing to answer, right? Because racism is real, right? People with money can get away with more. It's just what it is. And you can see it happen, whether it's getting a better lawyer, better attorney, whether people know the family, whatever. There's so many things that can happen, right? Color of your skin, because people have a bias. We're humans, right? We all have a pre-bias of somebody. But also it could be the judge, right? I mean, there's so many things it can be, because I've had people I work with where parents are cops, and man, they get away with everything because they just say their dad's name. Like, all right, get home. Like, damn, you got away with all that stuff. You know what I mean? But it's because dad's a cop. But then I've had people too where it's like, man, like you're not white. Your family of drug addicts. You've done some shady stuff. You've been locked up. Like, you've been on the run for 2 years. Like, you're screwed. I don't care how good you're doing. But then they go to court and the judge is like, you know what? They want me to get locked up. This is the first time I'm not going to listen to people. You can walk free. I'm glad you're doing good. So, you know what I mean? So it's really just comes, there's so many factors that come into play with that, you know?
So what would be your first move if it were up to you?
Ooh.
And let me ask you this. This is a harsh question. Would you abolish the stereotype, the likelihood based on culture, demographic, because what are the statistics?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do, I believe, is just look at a person's track record and judge them on that instead of demographics and.
But that doesn't work.
But I would look at that to make a decision, right? If somebody's been messing up a lot, okay, so maybe you have a higher rate. Doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to, though. But
we're not talking about hardened criminals. We're not talking about violent crimes.
Okay.
Right. We're talking about possession, DUI, maybe a disorderly conduct, resisting arrest. Like, we're talking about minor felonies to misdemeanor crimes, because that's the cycle that we see most people, where it consistently elevates to then all of a sudden they're armed robbery, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Because you can't. I don't think you can classify like that same philosophy with rape and you know what I mean, and murder and all of that. Like it can't be classified as the same. But what I'm talking about is the bullshit that we see walk in and out of rehab facilities. Very rarely is there a hardened criminal that's in treatment, right? Maybe now and then, but that's what I'm asking.
It's a hard one, man. I feel like people are the most difficult people to read. You just never know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like impossible to know. All you can do is kind of guess. I feel like everything's a guessing game when it comes to that stuff, you know?
That's true too. Because I know some guys that like you're like, dude, you have like your head on your shoulders. Like, what are you doing in here with me?
Yeah.
And then you hear about them like months later, and it's like, what the fuck happened to that dude?
Yeah, people that you think are gonna get it don't. The person's like, there's no way in hell this person's gonna get it, and they do. You know what I mean? It's like, how did this person get a year and you didn't? Type of thing. You know?
Yeah.
And so, in reality, I think everything's just a guessing game. You just don't know. That's why I'm always of the belief, instead of trying to change the system, why don't you just create something that something different on the side? Kind of like how the magic house is, right? It's like, okay, instead of fixing how treatments are, the system, we just created a space that's free for anyone to come in, stay as long as you want. You don't want to be here, you can leave. If you want to come here, we'll make room no matter what. Like, we're here to help you no matter what. But we don't need anything from you. There's no money, there's no insurance. We're just a spot. But again, out of thousands of people, maybe 2 people get it. You see what I mean? So even offering that, it's still this game of people coming in and out.
Yeah.
I think just creating more styles of communities like that for people to go to, I would do more of those, you know?
Yeah, I like that too. If someone were about to throw their life away, like a young kid, and you were watching it happen, I'm sure you have. What's your approach?
I would ask them, hey, what's going on? Tell me your story. And I would listen. I would validate so they could feel safe, heard, and seen. And then I would do whatever I can to help them with whatever they're going through, but walk through it with them. I think a lot of people's cry for help is because nobody's listening to them. Nobody's trying to understand them. They're just trying to change them. And I think they just want someone to truly care about them, which is listening and with empathy. And then the best part, right, is how can I help you, but actually doing something about it. You know what I mean? Whether it's you that can help or you know someone that can help. You know what I mean? And that's what I would tell anybody. Anytime someone's in a place like that, that's what I do. And some people will take it, and some people won't. But most people will take it because that's what they're actually looking for.
I like that. I think most people lead the other way. They start jamming down their face.
Sharing the secret sauce and, you know, you need to shut up, do this, do that. But it's like, that doesn't always work, especially in that place of pain.
Yeah. That is tough.
What help do you feel like when you're in that place of pain?
Honestly, like, the biggest wake-up call is always rock bottom, like the true rock bottom. Like when it is enough is enough. And I don't know how many rock bottoms you had, but like for me it was like one after the next, but it was just never the moment.
Yeah.
I was always able to justify in my head why to continue doing what I was doing. You know what I mean? And I think when I started to see myself like complete, because the funny thing about my addiction was always I was always me. This same person you know today is how I was when I was drinking. Like I was fun to be around and everything. But the minute I started to feel completely detached from that person, that's when it was like enough is enough, right? I think too, when I started my journey in sobriety and in fixing myself and fixing my codependency, I had such a cynical approach at first. What the fuck does this guy know? You know, this guy hasn't done shit with his life. He just got sober. That's all he's ever done. You know, and then I had to realize, like, well, hold on, he has that and I don't. You know, it was almost a comparison game at first. And I think it stays a comparison game as long as you're not doing the work for yourself. Because if you're trying to chase after another, if you're getting sober to win your kids back, win the relationship back and whatever, you're going to always see those like fleeting moments and like the things that other people have, and you're always going to be in comparison. The minute you're actually alone, detached, and it's like, whoa, this is about me now, and what your end goal isn't important, then what everyone else is doing isn't important. Because when you're playing that like earn it back game, you know, that's also massive FOMO. And that's also a massive questioning and speculation and assumption and all of that stuff. And that assumption and everything will make it near like when in the back of your head, you're like, oh, what is she doing while I'm sitting in rehab? Or, you know, or like, oh, what, you know, I got a text message, the kids didn't make it to school on time or whatever it is, right? But there's nothing you can do about it. You're in rehab. You got to turn your phone in 20 minutes, right? Like, as long as you're trying to like mentally control all of that, you're going to find it impossible to connect with everything else, including yourself.
Yeah. And a lot of people will do that too to avoid looking at self. If I focus on all these other things, because this is what I feel like I need to do, but really it's just to take the attention way off of you.
Right.
But some people, when they share, I'm like, so what are you going through today? And they make it about somebody else. Oh, I mean, I'm good, but I have a friend that's going through something. It's like, what are you doing right now?
You know how many guys that were at the rehab, like the center that I went to, which obviously you worked at,
it was like what, 60 people on top, 60 people on the bottom? Is a lot, right?
Yeah. And how many, like when we were out, we'd get our phones back for break and things like that, or how many guys that lived in the same sober living house as me, that I would listen to them, I'd hear them, I'd be like in the living room, like watching TV or something, I hear them outside talking to their baby mama or their wife or whatever, and how it was like, I could hear what they were saying, and it was always like, you know, why are you doing this and why this, and like, and it was like they were trying to control still, right? And then they would come back into the house when they get off their phone, and their attitude completely shifted and everything. Every single one of those guys that I would experience that interaction with or see that with, they all relapsed. 2 of them are dead. It's that control.
That's what they talk about, the serenity prayer, right? Accept the things that you cannot change and the wisdom to know the difference of what you can change. And that's what it is, right? It's like we're such control freaks, because control, in a sense, is that it makes us feel safe. But when you're trying to control things outside of you, like, you know, like it's impossible, and you're just going to spiral. And then you see what happens. You spiral long enough, you're going to go get high and drink soon enough.
Yeah. So I think you're right. Listen, because that's probably what they need most of. And then if I were to give any advice to anybody, it would be remove yourself from the state that you're in, or the city or whatever. Like, remove yourself entirely. And if you enjoy where you are, don't go back.
That's good.
And I've told a number of kids that were newcomers, things like that. One in particular, his name's Aiden. He's probably going to watch this. He was from Michigan.
Okay.
And he stood up at one of our little clubhouses, and he was like, just out here, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I'm just trying to learn from you guys and stuff like that. It was really cool. And after I approached him and I go, where are you from in Michigan? And he was like, I'm from this town. And I was like, nice, that's right up, half hour from where I'm from. I go, don't go back. And he's like, yeah, I've been thinking about that. And I go, don't. What do you have back there? You got kids? No. Got a girlfriend? No. Got a job? No. Don't go back. 2 years later, I see him all the time.
Oh, so he moved out here.
He stayed out here.
That's
he never went back. I don't even think he's ever even been back. I don't even think he went back to visit.
Yeah.
And he's thriving.
That's awesome.
He looks great. Good looking kid.
Yeah.
And he's doing well. And it's like, remove yourself entirely. That would be like literally the only bit of like intense advice that I would give to somebody is remove yourself. No one's going to miss you.
Yeah.
You won't be missed. They'll say that they miss you.
Life goes on.
Life goes on.
When I was gone for 6 months in Asia, my mind was, FOMO, I'm missing out. People are not going to want to hang out with me. Am I missing on opportunities? I come back, everything's the same. It's like I never left.
Yeah. I've been back to Michigan a handful of times, and it's like literally like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
People are fatter. Everybody's fatter. But other than that, nothing's changed.
Yeah, I think everybody should move I think everybody should move out of the place they grew up in. Get the hell out, move away.
Oh, 100%.
Like, get out. So many people get stuck, and then their whole perception and their life is like this area, and that's all you know, and that's all you think. It's like, get out. And in the U.S., even just leaving state to state, I'm sure you know, right? It's like a culture shock.
Yeah.
Like, just do that.
Yeah, I am so glad that because it was a big boy decision for me to stay. You know, it was a fucking big move.
I remember when you were talking about it too in treatment, because, you know, I hear it all the time. I'm moving out here. I'm moving out here.
Yeah.
I remember you're talking about it.
When I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah. But, you know, in treatment, you hear everyone say it.
Yeah.
So you're hearing it say it.
Yeah, everyone's full of shit.
Was this the first time you've been out to No, I'm sure you've been out here before, right?
Yeah, but not anything long term.
Okay. Well, so for you being from the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
What was your perception of Cali people?
Oh, I mean, you know, I grew up in punk bands and stuff like that, and playing music, and you know, a lot of my friends were from California or had like the West Coast vibes and things like that. So it wasn't like anything that I wasn't like. It wasn't nothing new to me, right? Most of my tattoos are like, you know, California style.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like everything the culture has always been kind of in me, that like surf, snowboard, you know, that like skate, like style and all of that. So like that was really natural to me. When I walked down Main Street and I saw like 3 guys with Black Flag tattoos that look exactly like mine, I'm like, all right, I can hang here. You know what I mean? But I think the biggest thing was abundance. Abundance is why I stayed in California. And it's why people move to other places. You know, I know Scottsdale is like a very like abundant mindset, young, rich, entrepreneur, you know, mindset. You know, Miami obviously is becoming the new New York City. But what Orange County brought to me was like this mindset of abundance that West Michigan could never bring. And it's why when I go back there, I'm like, you're so small still. Like a rich guy in West Michigan is like, man, you do all right in Orange County. Friends out here are so much different. So much different. Well, you actually connect. There's like actual like this. It's not like, you know, superficial talk behind each other's back. Like I don't know anybody like that's in my circle that we wouldn't just approach each other if we had some shit to say. Where I go back to Michigan and what I hear is everybody talking about everybody else, and it's fucking lame. It's so lame. But I think everybody can say that about their hometown.
Yeah, usually anyone that's where they're from. I mean, like for me, I grew up in Orange County my whole life, and I don't like LA. Fucking hate LA. Even though I'm gonna live out in LA, I hate LA. I actually think I like San Diego more than LA and Orange County. San Diego people are wealthy, but they don't talk about it. They're just cool people. LA, it's all about look what I have, look how I look what I do. And then Orange County's people have money, but sometimes people could be snobby out here, a little stuck up. That's how I kind of see the differences out here.
Yeah. I don't see it as much in Orange County, but I don't know. I went out to Whiskey A Go Go one night by myself. Yeah. I met up with my buddy Alvaro. You've met Al before.
Yeah. The actor, right?
Yeah. But I drove out there by myself, and then we went to see a band play, and then he left, and then I was walking back to my car, and I just kind of like dicked around for a little bit, you know, on Sunset, and I was like, dude, this is cool. It was like 1:30 in the morning, but I was like, the creepies are out. I was like, the creepies are out.
People scream.
I almost like stumbled over this dude sitting on the ground smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then I looked back at him, and and he was sitting there like this, and he had like one leg up like this. And I looked at him. It's Axl Rose.
Like a guy dressed like Axl Rose?
It was Axl Rose.
It was Axl Rose.
It was Axl Rose. And then he walked into Whiskey A Go Go. It was Axl Rose.
That's rad.
He's fat and short. I didn't realize that he was a short guy.
Yeah.
It's fucking funny.
That's hilarious.
But anyways, yeah, I was just like, man, I like Hollywood. It's fun. But I could never live there.
That's what I meant. Yeah, it's like a place to go to. Let's go see a show. It's cool. Yeah. I don't want to live right there. Like another day, it was funny. I spoke at this place, a nice place. And then, you know, I walk out, and I look to the right, and there's this guy butt naked, just taking a shit, smoking a cigarette right there. I'm like, checks out, and I look to the left, and there's this guy jerking off on the bus stop, just naked. I'm like, that's LA for you.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, the other day Lizzie and I were walking the dogs down Main Street. There was a guy with his pants around his ankles just taking a leak right in the middle of the sidewalk, dicking balls out and everything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? In Huntington? That didn't last long for him. He was exited. But yeah, that's funny. So people, the whole point of our podcast is like redemption stories, is like people's journey. You know, a few episodes ago, we had a tough one. And I think people believe in redemption stories, and I think people love to see it happen. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And, you know, there's a lot of ugly that's involved in a redemption story, and everything from a lot of it's relationships. A lot of it is just that internal pain. But like in your eyes, what is like the most ugly truths that you see that no one really hears about in terms of redemption?
Like ugly truths, what it takes to like make a comeback?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say they're ugly truths, but I think the harsh reality is that it's not easy, because there's a lot of things that comes from people that you've hurt, people that you've used, debt that you owe, things that you've blown up, things about yourself that you're a shitty person and you got to work on these things. And so I think that the harsh reality is it's just a lot of work that you have to put in to make a comeback. That's not easy. Like, it's really not that easy, because I think it takes a lot of humility depending on what you've done and who you've done it to. That can make it very difficult for people to make change, because it's not easy. You got to face that shit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And some things are harder than others. You know, from people robbing places, stealing $100,000, people stealing cars, crashing them, to you threatening all these people, hurting all these people. Or maybe you're just academically fucking stupid. And yeah, you're a fat piece of shit. And it's like you don't have any fucking common sense. And it's like, you got to learn all that shit. You got to figure that shit out. And no one's going to do it. And it's not going to be easy. You know, and I think that's the hard reality of a comeback. It's just not easy. You got to put in so much work, and it takes fucking time, and there's no shortcut to it.
Would you say, and I'm sure it varies on, once again, like your demographic and all of that, but the cards are stacked against you?
I wouldn't say the cards are stacked against you. It's just that there's a lot of cards that you have to go against. That's just the reality. And everybody's ability to do things is different, right? Like, it's almost like your pain threshold, whatever it is for everyone's different, you know, and all of us have certain things that are harder than others. So it's not that nobody has an unfair advantage. That's what I'll say. No one has an unfair advantage. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be difficult no matter what. And you know, you can go, well, let's say Justin has $10 million. He's going to get sober easily. It doesn't mean shit.
No.
He knows that. You can't buy it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. So I think at the end of the day, it's like, nobody has an unfair advantage. Everybody has it the same. And when people say they have unfair advantage, like, no, you just don't want to do what it takes.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I think like your ability to understand and learn and stuff like that is going to play a huge role. Mm-hmm. Right? I made a lot of dumbass decisions, but by no means am I a dumbass. Right? So when I was given concepts in terms of, like, you know, behavior and the big book and all of that stuff, it was easy for me to grasp them. But if you're somebody who can't comprehend the topics, the sayings, you know what I mean? All the reading, the work, it makes it really hard. Mm-hmm.
Because that means you're not.
I was looking for another word. The acronyms.
The acronyms, the metaphors, all that stuff, analogies.
Yeah.
That's why they say the how, and I believe the how is in anything in life, right? If you want to grow and change in any aspect of your life, the how is you got to be honest, you got to be open-minded, and you got to be willing. I think that's a universal thing to use in any aspect of making redemption.
Yeah.
In any aspect, because you have to, right? You got to be honest. What do you suck at? What do you need help with? What do you not know? Just be honest. You know what I mean? open. You got to be open-minded, like you said. You got to understand that your way's not working. So listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what this is saying. You know what I mean? And then you got to be willing, right? You got to be willing to do whatever it takes.
Yep. What do you think is the biggest misconception when it comes to getting clean?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is just the idea that it's a choice. Getting high is a choice. It's the biggest misconception.
Okay, but getting clean isn't a choice?
Oh, what's the biggest misconception of getting clean? Give me an example. I've never heard someone ask me that.
So like, you want my honest truth?
Yeah.
That I think that God alone can get you clean.
I like that one. Yeah.
That's a tough one. But even in the book, we say it. We sought prayer and meditation. Lord knows we tried it all. I think that's a misconception. I don't think you can pray the addiction away. Sorry. I think it's a piece of the puzzle.
Right.
But I don't know. I've seen a lot of people try it, and I've seen a lot of people fail. That would be a misconception.
That God alone could get you sober. And I believe that's not true, yeah. That's a lot of people that do like, I've seen people do like the God program only, and they're like, it's gone. And I observe, because I'm curious, so I observe long-term, watch people. I've seen people go back out. Okay, they were wrong. Then I've seen some people who haven't gone back out yet. But then you notice other things about them. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, but you still do this and you do that and you do that. So there's some change that's not going on. You haven't picked up, but look at your life. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's why I think God alone is not enough. There's so many more components that you need to do. If that was true, we wouldn't need any of this stuff in the world to help. Right. It's like I just pray and I'm healed.
Yeah, exactly. And again, some people they are able to grasp the concepts of prayer, meditation, and God better than others, and there's distraction, and there's a million other things that happen and that are variables, and that to say like, oh, I'm going to give it up entirely to God. Now, that's not to say that God isn't a massive help in that, but I think that there's more work to be done.
Oh, I got one now too. So I think the biggest misconception of getting clean is all you need to do to change your life.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? It's not. Getting clean is like, okay, cool. Now you're a normal person.
Yeah.
Right? Now you can start working on yourself.
Well, I actually struggled with that because it was funny how we celebrate, time and sobriety. Yeah. And like it's cool because to us in the room, and if it's closed to just addicts, right? Like, to some of us it's really, really hard. Yeah. But to celebrate sobriety to me is like also when people like congratulate me. I always like when people like see my before pictures and they're like, wow, you used to be really fat. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, wow, congratulations. I'm like, congratulations for what? I wasn't supposed to be fat. I was never supposed to be fucked up. Yeah. And so I always thought that it was funny because it's like, whoa, we're celebrating the standard, what you should be. You shouldn't be fucked up. You shouldn't be fat. You shouldn't be cheating on your wife. You shouldn't like, whoa, like, what do you want me to congratulate you for not robbing that bank? Like,
that's what I mean, right? Hey, I'm proud of you, man. You didn't steal.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't do that.
Tell a klepto, like you really overcame something. Yeah. So that's funny. And that kind of segues me into like my next question with that. What's more dangerous, the drug or the addict's mindset?
The addict's mindset.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think the addict's minds, because remember, it's not a drinking problem, it's a thinking problem.
No, and I agree with you, but you answered that really fast without taking into consideration new drugs.
Like fentanyl?
Yeah.
What is more? I still think thinking is more dangerous than that.
Yeah. No, you're right. You are true. It isn't a drinking problem, it's a thinking problem, and drugs and alcohol aren't the problem, it's the solution, right? But my issue is that I know a lot of people who are recreational drug users. Most of my friends back home aren't addicts. Well, right. But like, you know, they're able to keep their, you know, family intact and their lives intact, and they don't start on Monday, maybe Thursday. But either way, right, but it's like, you also have like fentanyl that can creep in at any moment.
Right.
So in terms of like overall danger, now, because I agree with you, it's not a drinking problem, it's a thinking problem. It is the drug addict's mindset. But now there's never been a more critical point. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I'll say that for sure. It's like, imagine if fentanyl was a thing back then for us, we'd have been dead.
Oh, yeah. When's the last time you tested your Coke?
I know, I'm never going to, who would even think that? Yeah. The way you test it is, that's some good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Rub it in your mouth.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
That to me is scary. I think about, like, if I was to go back and party, I was like, I would have to be like paranoid about everything. Like, is it clean? Is there anything in it? How do you know? Do you have a test strip?
Yep.
Like, what happens if I test it and I'm doing it and I want to do more and I'm going to die? You know, like, here, we're at a rave. Where'd you get those pills? How do you know? Like, that would suck, especially when you're messed up. I'm not thinking, I'm going to take that. And then I have to worry about taking something and dying. Like, that is a trip.
So if it is the mindset, then what would you say is the real key element to fixing that mindset? I want to hear your answer because I have an answer too.
What is that key? How do you change your thinking? Well, I think that's why the 6th and 7th step is your behaviors, right? So you look at your thinking patterns, which is, how do you act? Why do you act like that? And then it's like, now you need to change all those behaviors because that's the problem right there. And so that really just takes a lot of effort, whatever it is. People pleasing, is it lying, exaggerating, is it manipulating? You know what I mean? It's just not doing it anymore. But that takes work. You might have to buy a self-help book on it, get a coach on it, learn about it. I think if you don't change that, then you're just gonna be miserable and depressed and sad.
Agreed. I like that. I have a different answer though.
Let's hear it.
And this wasn't to tee myself up, by the way.
I'm still gonna think that.
I think you have to audit what you really enjoy in life. Right? Do you like to go fishing or do you just want to get fucked up on a boat?
Yeah.
I think that for me, there was a really key element to finding not only sobriety, but a fulfilled life outside of drinking and drugging. And I had to see it in somebody else. And that person's name was Marty. And there's a chapter in my book that's about to come out about Marty. And Marty was a dude that was best friends with my dad and mom. So Marty and his girlfriend or wife at the time. I was young, you know. I was like probably 9 years old, 8 years old when I met Marty. And we moved to Maine, and it was like my dad's first friend. And this dude was awesome, right? He was cool as hell. And they would always go out on the weekends, and they would go to like clubs in Boston and stuff like that. And I always heard my mom talk about what a riot was. And then later on in life, I found out that he always drove them because he never drank. And then I would hear my mom talk about it, and then we moved from Maine to Michigan, and Marty was not in our life anymore. It was like all of a sudden he was gone. And when my parents would travel, he was a hairstylist.
Okay.
And his girlfriend or wife did nails, and they had a little salon together. weren't like rich by any means, but just cool, right? And when my mom and dad would travel for General Motors events, they would stay with my brother and I. And he was like always like, he would take me like we had like the first Escalade ever, and like he would take me to like the Strip and Old Orchard Beach in Maine and like cruise the Strip, listen to rap and stuff like that. He was just really like kind of my first, I guess, mentor or whatever.
Okay.
I remember I was like 11 or 12 years old, and he gave me a paper sandwich bag, you know, or lunch bag full of condoms. And he was like, listen, kid, you know, and he had this thick Boston accent. He's like, you got too much going for you. You don't want to fuck this up. You know, use these. And I didn't even know what to do with them. I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? You know, make an animal out of it? Like, so he was always like a big influence, and I thought he was like the coolest dude in the world. So later on, we moved back to Michigan. Once in a while, his name would get brought up, but he pretty much disappeared out of my life, right? And we disappeared out of his life. We never talked again. But I would always remember my mom tell stories about them and about how he would like dance and bring people back to like their tables and stuff, because my parents liked to go clubbing and stuff back then. They were young. And so I remember I was in, this is a really long story to get the point across, but I remember when I was in my condo, I lived in a high rise at the time, and that was like my isolation chamber. That might as well have been a jail cell, even though it's gorgeous. It might as well have been a jail cell. And I remember I was in my bathroom, and I wouldn't leave my bathroom because I had all my nitrous in there, and I had lines and everything in there, and I just stayed in my bathroom. I sat on the ledge of like the tub and just like fish out and fucking whatever.
I get it.
And I remember I went on my phone, and I went like as deep as to like open up a LinkedIn account and look up Marty. I couldn't find him. I was like, I know his last name's this, and I don't want to say his whole name and whatever, but he doesn't care. He knows he gave me permission to write the chapter about him. But, and I found him. And I called him. Dude, this is like 22 years later.
Wow.
I said, hey, Marty, this is Justin Wenzel. Do you remember me? And he's like, hey, kid, how are you, man? How's your father? Like, what? I haven't talked to you guys in forever. And I said, dude, I'm not good. And I explained to him what was going on. And I remember how he treated it. Okay. Now remember, I didn't know. All I knew is that he didn't drink. Like, I didn't know anything. He's like, Justin, your parents don't know this about me. Like, but I'm in recovery. He's like, I'm like 30 something years, sponsored dudes, all this stuff. He's like, I still go to whatever, like to this very day. And he's like, I was bad. I was in rough shape back then. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, you ain't doing anything that I haven't done. Trust me, Irish, like an Irish Boston dude, like whatever. And he's like, I don't really talk about it. He's like, at this point I do what I do and whatever. He's like, but you can get through this. And he kind of talked to me a little bit about confidence in sobriety. Okay. And so if you remember when I was in treatment, I used to go to concerts and stuff. Like I would get like permission to go to shows and I would go to bars and stuff like that because I was searching for what I actually enjoyed doing. Did I like going to concerts, or was it just an excuse to get fucked up?
Right.
So once I started to discover what I enjoyed doing and where I felt confident and how I could make friends and meet people with clear fucking crystal eyeballs. And there's been a number of other instances with people that I looked up to that didn't use or drink ever in their life, that were like the coolest dudes in the world, the most confident dudes, like had the best looking women, all of it. And it was always like I wanted that. And even though I had confidence all fucked up, and even though I had beautiful women, wives, girlfriends, whatever, I had money, I had things like that, like they had something I didn't. And they had true enjoyment in the things that they really loved, right? They liked going to concerts and experiencing music. They liked going golfing and not getting fucked up by the ninth hole, right? Where I'd be like 2 beers a hole and like a, what's the cinnamon thing that people drink?
Fireball?
Fireball.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and smoking weed and taking mushrooms on the golf cart and all the stuff, right? By the time you get out, it's like you get to the back nine, you're like fucking swinging for the fences. So it's like, do I enjoy golf?
Yeah.
And so Marty kind of put this in my thing where I was like, I want to be the guy that like rounds the troops and says, we're going to this club next. And like, you don't need any alcohol. That's real confidence. You're really like directing like what's going to happen and what people are doing. And anyways, I stayed in touch with him. And of course, it wasn't right away. I had to go to jail. I had to do some other things. I had to do like court and stuff like that. So I stayed in touch with him throughout like this like 2-month window, but I was still in and out, and he could hear it in my voice. And he said, when are you going to give up the whippets? And when are you going to, you know what I mean? When are you going to give up the Adderalls? And when are you going to like, this? But he was always like not judgmental. He was just like, you need to find freedom, bro. And I remember the day I got on the airplane to come out here, I called him. I said, I'm doing it. I'm going to rehab. I'm going to California to go to rehab. And he goes, all right, now we can actually start working. Now we will find freedom together. And since then, we have been, if you follow him on social media, he always wears a JWX tank top in the gym. Like, he's my biggest fan, biggest supporter. We talk all the time now. I wrote a chapter dedicated to him. I'll probably dedicate the book to him.
Wow.
He got me sober.
That's rad.
From 3,000, 4,000 miles away. He's in Portland, Maine. He got me sober. And it was literally because I was able to audit out, what do I enjoy, what do I not, where do I feel confident, and how can I feel more confident? And Marty helped me find that confidence.
And that's good. That's why they always say, right? You want to create a life you don't want to escape. And that's what you're figuring out what you like, what you don't like, right? Doing research and experiments. Do I like it because I get drunk and high, or do I actually like it? And finding those things, and then creating your life around that, and then finding how can I be more confident in these areas that I like.
Exactly what you just said, creating a life that you don't want to escape.
Yeah.
I said it, create a life that you don't need a substance to enhance. And I can tell you why what both of us are saying is the same exact thing. Yeah. I can tell you how many people are searching for that, because that's what put me on the fucking map. I put a reel out 3.5 years ago, sitting in front of my shitty little glass window with my phone propped up against the Yeti cup, talking about creating a life that you don't need a substance to enhance, and like 78 million views, tons of followers, tons of engagement, tons of clientele from that one thing, that one topic. And I think so many people need to find that. Yeah. What is true confidence? What do I really enjoy? And how can I be myself in public and do the things that I once loved to do without trying to make it better? It should be good enough the way it is.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many people are not living that. And I think that's why people are attracted to what you said. It's not even for addicts, it's just for people.
Right.
So many people that are just living because they feel like they need to do this, I need to do that. I can't do that. There's no way. That's not acceptable. Or like, I love that, but I'm a grown up now. Or there's no way you can make this happen.
Right.
And it's not true. That's the best thing you can do, is make life work for you instead of you working for life.
Right.
Whatever that is. But like you said, it takes experimenting, auditing stuff, paying attention, just doing it.
This was fun, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
If you guys like what you saw, make sure you click that subscribe button. Go follow Fausto. We'll put all of his information down below in the description. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, we're fucking out.
Peace.